All right. What about you, Jordan? What adventure did you go on?
My sign just fell down.
Professionalism.
Yeah. So,
Great. So we'll pick that up, I guess.
yeah.
Or are you just going to leave it on the floor?
Do you want me to put it back up?
I do whatever you want. What do you have it up there with?
A thumbtack.
Nice.
Stay. Okay.
What are we talking about today, Jordan?
How you doing, Ryan? We are talking about boats today. The inside track to boats. I think we both went on way different kind of boats. Yeah, we're gonna try to give you an adventure today.
I love it.
So,
I love it.
how about you start?
I chose, as my boating adventure, to go on the Queen Mary. Have you ever heard of the Queen Mary?
I have not.
It's a historical ship. They have what's known as the Hauntings Tour. And so this boat is like infamously haunted. There are tons of sightings of people feeling things, hearing things, seeing things, but there's some really neat stories. So I'll start with, I guess, a little bit about the history of the Queen Mary that I learned that I didn't know prior to. So this ship set sail for the first time in 1936. Now here's a crazy part. The ship is bigger than the Titanic. And so seeing it, I mean, it's a massive ship, but I always pictured the Titanic as this just daunting piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I pictured it as being too large to even fathom, but it was tiny compared to the Queen Mary. So that's a neat fact. It was the fastest ship on the seas during World War II. And this was a cruise liner. If you wanted to sail on the Queen Mary, in 1936, it would have cost you $1,070.
Wow.
To give that a comparison, that would have bought a house. That's
crazy.
How expensive this Queen Mary was. And whenever we got into World War II, it became a military ship. And it was used to transport soldiers. Now, it would transport, I think what he said was 16,000 soldiers across the sea. And it would make the ship in 4 to 5 days.
Wow.
That's how fast it crossed the Atlantic Ocean. Like, that's nuts. They credited the Queen Mary and her sister ship, the Queen Elizabeth, with shrinking the time that it took to win the war by at least 2 years, because it was able to bring in that many troops from America to help out with the war. Let's get into some of the haunting stuff.
Okay, yeah.
So one of the areas that they took us to was the very front, the bow of the ship. And it was the lowest and the furthest forward point that you could get into. And I mean, we had to, you could get in there and squeeze pretty tight. So apparently during World War II, while they were crossing, one of their side ships, I guess, lost track of it. And this is a big ship to lose track of. But apparently they got out and they got in front of the Queen Mary by accident. And the Queen Mary just plowed right through the middle of this ship. Now, there were so many soldiers on this ship that people had to be stored on top. There were rotations, and people filled the top of the ship, so there were people pushed all the way to the front. And the stories go that the soldiers were throwing their life vests and just trying to help out as many people as they can. But Hitler wanted to sink this ship so bad that they had orders that they could not stop for anything. And so thousands of men died because the Queen Mary just could not stop.
Wow.
So what they say, supposedly, is when you're working in that part of the ship, sometimes you can hear the ripping of metal, the screaming of men asking for help, splashing of water that wouldn't make sense for where it's docked. And there's been a lot of cases of reportings there. The second most haunted, well, I guess actually this is the most haunted, this is the second stop of our tour, was a pool area. Now, this pool is out of commission because there's no shallow end. It could not exist today because you couldn't have a pool that starts at 8 feet and gets deeper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. There was even a slide. It was neat. The last time somebody swam in it was for the filming of one of the episodes of Charlie's Angels. They used it. There's all kinds of movies and TV shows that have been filmed on this ship. But supposedly, the most common haunting of this pool area is a little girl. And you can hear her laughing, supposedly, when she does show herself.
Nope.
You can play hide and seek with her, basically. She runs off and plays hide and seek. It's creepy.
No.
I know. Supposedly, guests that have come through this tour have even felt like they were, if they had their arms by their side, they felt like somebody came up and took their hand and held their hand as they were standing there. And nothing was there.
Ooh. Did you have any haunting encounters while you were touring?
No, but a funny thing happened. Every single one of the guests went, all right, I guess I'll put my hands in my pockets now. The next and final stop that we made was to the engine room. And apparently a lot of this stuff has been ripped out, but some of these pieces are massive. And I'll show pictures of like some of just the actual nuts for the bolts that they used for the rudders. And here's one of me sitting on top of the nut, and my feet are just barely touching the ground. But I'm sitting on top of this nut.
Wow.
It's crazy. But so there are these emergency doors that are designed to slam close in the case of flooding. If one of the engine rooms were to flood, they have the ability to hit a button and slam the doors shut. Supposedly there was an issue, and the captain gave the orders that everybody needs to leave the engine room. Finish what you're doing and leave, and we're going to slam things shut because there's a leak, there's something going on. So the orders came, there were 5 minutes passed, and supposedly when they start this process, you have 5 seconds before this thing just slams shut and just collapses in on itself, essentially. And you can see like some of the triggering mechanisms are really neat on it. Supposedly, and I guess all of these stories that I'm telling are true. The ghost stuff is debatable, but the actual historical events that happened are 100% true. They came back down, and what they found was that an 18-year-old boy did not make it through the door within the 5 seconds. And he was half of him was inside, the other half was outside.
Wow.
And he was still alive when they found him hours later. And when they wedged it back open, essentially he fell apart without getting too graphic. And he passed away, unfortunately. But
that's crazy.
In the engine room, supposedly what people say is that you can hear people crying for help. You can hear the slamming of the doors. Oh no, it's a neat ship. If you have a chance, they do. There's restaurants inside of it. You can stay there. It's a hotel still, but it's docked permanently in Long Beach, and it has been since about the 70s.
How much did it cost for you to tour it?
So, actually, I know some people. I know some people. I saved quite a bit of money. The Ghostly Encounters tour, and I think it encompasses the historic tour and I think a 4D movie. I chose not to go to any of those, but is $44.
Cool. So, I had a little bit of a different boat experience than you did.
A less cool.
No, quite more cool.
No.
Yes.
Are you kidding? I would venture to say that if my ship took on your tugboat, mine would win.
Maybe
mine
so.
Beat Hitler,
but
I win.
But mine still runs, and it was moving when I got in it.
Mine's still floating.
Oh yeah.
I say mine like I own the Queen Mary.
So I'm out here in Florida, and we traveled to the swampland to go on an airboat ride. Have you ever been on an airboat ride?
I've never been on. I've seen them. I've seen them on TV, but they're very cool.
They're crazy cool. So I had never been on one either. And this place that we went to, it was actually a restaurant, a bar, and it had these airboat rides. So this particular one they had 5 boats. I do have some pictures here of the boat itself. It's not as big as you would think. Like, at least this one was. When I picture a airboat, I either picture like a single person one, where it's just the driver and whatever
people out gator fishing.
Yeah, or like something huge. This was, I don't know. This was pretty small. It fit about 8 people, excluding the captain. My captain was Captain Schultz. There's a picture of me with Captain Schultz in the captain chair. You have to, like, the first thing you do when we went out is we crossed over this or underneath this highway, and so there's cars above us and fishermen. Like where we were, evidently was a state-owned water. Like it wasn't. They didn't own that water. They could. There were other people on that water. So
anybody could drive out there, and if they owned a boat, they could get on it.
Right, yeah, because there were fishermen out there. There wasn't any other airboats besides these airboats. So I don't know if it's sanctioned for they can only be airboat riding, but there were fishermen out there. Everybody's offered ear protection, and I'm like, oh, whatever. Yeah, I don't need ear protection because, yeah, whatever. I don't know. It was loud. It was super loud, but I don't know. So we get... We get out onto the water, and the captain, he was super cool. He was able to give us some facts about not only the airboat ride, but like the area that we were in. A little bit into the ride, there were these cows in the middle of the swamp, just like chilling in the swamp.
Like those, they weren't like those yaks that you'll see.
No, they were cows. Like
they were cows.
Good-looking cows, like.
Oh. Yeah.
I mean, they were like cattle, like.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, 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 wow. Brown chicken, brown cow. No, they were good-looking cattle, but, why is that so funny to you? I come from Texas. I know what good cattle looks like.
Go on.
And we asked, like, why are these cows in the middle of the swamp? And he said, well, we call them swamp burgers. we're all like, swamp burgers? Like, yeah. So evidently these cows are actually owned by a ranch, just like a Texas ranch would have cattle. And twice a year they get cowboys on airboats and, like, herd them all in and send them to the sale. Like, I would love to be there and see that cowboys on airboats. Like, that sounds like a lot of fun. So, like, yeah, we saw swamp burgers. A lot of wildlife. A lot of birds swooping down and, like, I hate birds. But we actually did get to see a gator.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
I was going to ask you if you saw him.
We did. I mean, it was just for a split second. I didn't get a picture because by the time I saw it, picked up my phone and pushed the camera, it was gone. And from what the captain said, he estimated to be about a 10-foot gator.
Whew.
That's a big gator.
Is that big out there, or is that like big to us?
That's big. That's on the big side. I noticed that about halfway through the ride, he started picking up speed, and I'm like, man, how fast can this sucker go? So the captain said, anytime we're slowed down or we're turning or whatever, where the motor is off, feel free to ask me any questions. There will be a portion of the ride that you can ask me anything. He stopped for a second and we were just kind of chilling there, and I asked him, like, well, what's the top speed on this sucker? He said, top speed on this one, really isn't built for speed. The top speed for this is about 60 miles per hour. And yeah, so, I actually got my phone out, and I clocked us going 54. So,
wow.
He said, I think he probably pushed it a little bit further than he usually would, just because I asked that question. But he did say that there are racing airboats that are built for speed, and they have like drag races out on the swamp,
like competitions in that area.
Yes, in that area that there like how in Texas there'd be like illegal on-road drag races. They do drag races on boats.
Are they like decked out with like decals and everything too?
I don't know. I haven't seen it. He said there's two major groups that go out there and do it, and it's a big competition between guys that think airplane motors on their airboats are faster than car motors. And so there's the car motor guys, and there's the the airplane motor guys.
Sort of like American versus European cars.
Right.
That makes sense.
And so I asked him, so you would think that airplane motors would just like blow them out of the water.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, literally blowing out. And but he said, it's pretty competitive, but car motors are able to hold a higher RPM for longer.
Okay.
And so it's a give and take. There might be more
Interesting.
thrust with the air. But anyway, he said those drag racing boats can go up to 200 miles per hour.
Wow.
So that would be absolutely wild. So that was my airboat experience.
All right. Well, clearly mine was better. But that's
no.
okay, Jordan.
No.
So you'll have better luck next time.
Yeah. So are we gonna rate our?
Oh,
our,
yeah.
our
Yeah, we got to
boats?
rate it.
Yeah.
So all in all, what I would give the Queen Mary is a 9 out of 10.
Oh,
She's a
gosh.
historical figure. She is named after a beautiful queen. She kicked Hitler's.
Well, I'm glad you went first because I'm gonna have to rate my airboat experience at a 9.2. Being able to go fast and
All right. I guess that's how it's gonna be, a 9.2.
yeah.
That's how it is. That's how it is. But all right. So Jordan, I guess we're gonna get out of here.
Sounds good.
Now, is it true you just came out with a new song?
I just came out with a new song called Peace. Me and my good friend Savannah Rose just wrote it, and it'll be on YouTube.
All right. The channel is called S&J Music. So make sure you go check that out. Jordan, good job singing that song.
Thanks, man.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time.